Lab Matrix provides comprehensive functionality for querying and creating reports. In this video, we will see how to build and run queries using Lab Matrix's built-in Qiagram tool. Qiagram's unique drag-and-drop interface allows you to visually build a query, creating complex queries without any programming expertise. Qiagram can be accessed from the Lab Matrix program using the search menu. The Qiagram page contains a folder tree, a palette, and a canvas. The folder tree lists the locations where the Qiagram queries can be saved. The palette lists the data sources that are available for querying. Only a data source for which you have appropriate permissions will be visible to you. The canvas is where queries are built. To start constructing a query, drag a data source from the palette onto the canvas. Once a data source is on the canvas, Qiagram tools can be used to apply criteria to define a subset of the data source. The New Subset option allows you to extract records from a data source based on selected criteria. To create a subset, drag the node onto the canvas, right-click, and select New Subset. The subset window will open. In this example, let's find subjects who are still living and female. Select mortality status in the first dropdown, select equal in the second, and select alive in the third dropdown as shown here. The Add Criteria button allows us to add a second criterion to further refine the data included in the subset. Here we specify female subjects only. When there are two or more criteria, we must specify whether the returned values should meet at least one criterion or all criteria. In this example, we want both criteria, so we click the All Criteria Must Be Met button. Now we can click the Apply button. Now we can see our subset criteria have been added to the query. To run the query, click Run from the top of the window, or right-click the filtered data source icon and select Run Query to here. The Column Selection window will open. This window allows us to manage the columns that will be displayed in the query results. Select columns by checking boxes next to the field names in the left panel. The selected columns will be displayed in the right panel. When the fields are selected and sorted, click Run Query. The results will be displayed in a new tab. These are the available subset operator options. In our example, we used equal to specify that sex and mortality status were equal to female and alive, respectively. We may make use of other operators in this list for different field types. We may want to use is-after with date fields, or use operators such as less than or equal to with decimal fields. We can use formulas to create new columns from existing data sources. To create a formula column, right-click on an icon on the canvas and select New Column from Formula. The New Column from Formula window will open. To define the format of the new column, open the drop-down list from the Add a Column field. Enter the name of the new column in the New Column field. This name will appear as the column header. This field is required. To define the function, select the function from the Insert Function drop-down list or type the formula. The selected formula will appear in the formula box with placeholders for the field names. Complete the formula by replacing the placeholders with the required information. Fields can be replaced by hand or by using the Select Field drop-down list. For example, let's assume that we want to add a new date column, 3 years follow-up date. Selecting the Date Add formula from the drop-down list will give us this view. To add 3 years to the birth year, enter Y for the date part, 3 for the count, and birth date for the birth column. The result will be shown. To preview the results, select the Load Preview button. The new formula window will expand to show the first 20 results. Once the formula options have been selected, click Apply. The formula icon will appear on the canvas connected to the source dataset with a green arrow. To run the query, click Run from the top of the window, or right-click an icon on the canvas and select Run Query to here. Once the columns are selected, click Run Query. The results will open in a new tab. As we have seen, adding a formula creates a new column in the existing data source. This column displays values calculated by applying the formula information in the data source. Here we see the components we can use in constructing formulas. Calculations display a single value for a group of data. To create a calculation from a specific node, right-click on the node and select New Calculation. The New Calculation window will open. The name field is the name that will be displayed on the canvas. The first drop-down box in the Calculate field determines the type of calculation. The second drop-down box determines the field on which to run the calculation. The third drop-down box determines if the output is a floating point or a decimal number. If the output is a decimal number, choose the number of decimal places. The Call It field is the name of the column displaying the calculation. The For All and For Each radio buttons determine which data is used for the calculation. For All performs the calculation on all values in the indicated field. For Each groups the values by the field entered next to the radio button and performs the calculation on each group. To include more calculations, use the Add function button. Here, for example, we want to calculate an average of subject ages for each gender group. Once the calculation options have been selected, click Apply. The calculation icon will appear on the canvas connected to the source dataset with a dashed arrow. To run the query, click on Run from the top of the window, or right-click the node and select Run Query to here. Once the columns are selected, click Run Query. The results will open in a new tab. Here are the available calculation options. Multi-set operations combine data from multiple data sources to perform a query. All multi-set operations require a relationship between the data sources. This relationship is defined by matching values in a column in one of the data sources to those in a column in the other data source. Multi-set operations can be performed by dragging one icon on top of another on the canvas. This will open the Multi-set Operations window. The most frequent operations, Combine Columns, and Filter By, are presented in the window when it opens. To view the complete list of available operations, click More Operations. In this presentation, we will only cover the most frequent operations. Select Combine Columns. This opens the Combine Columns wizard. In Step 1, use the Venn diagram to select which records from the data sources should be displayed in the results. The diagram here shows all subject records and any related biomaterial records. This means show all records from biomaterials and any related records and subjects. This means show all records and subjects and biomaterials, including those that aren't related. This means show all only records from subjects and biomaterials that are related. The Name field is the field that will be displayed on the canvas to denote the column combination. Once you define your criteria, click Next to move to Step 2. This step defines how the records in the data sources are related. You may choose the default relationship if one is indicated, or define a new one using the Combine Columns wizard. If no default relationship has been defined for you, you must define one. To define a new relationship, use the drop-down list to select the column from the first node that has the matching values with a column in the second node. Next, use the drop-down list to choose that matching column in the second node. In this example, we use the default relationship as recommended. Select Finish. The new query node will be displayed on the canvas with arrows connecting it to its parent data sources. To run the query, click Run from the top of the window, or right-click a node and select Run Query to here. The Filter By operation shows records from one data source based on their correspondence with records in another data source. If we select Filter Subjects by Biomaterials, then the new query node will be displayed on the canvas with arrows connecting it to the parent data sources like this. If we select Filter Biomaterials by Subjects, then the new query node will be displayed on the canvas like this. If a relationship has been defined for the data sources, a query is automatically built. To run the query, click Run from the top of the window, or right-click a node and select Run Query to here.